Okay, we'll start with this one. Unbeknownst to most, Kourouni was in action south of the border, and there was a snafu. There was a last-minute change of opponent, it being that Jimenez, who she was supposed to be fighting...
Her opponent found out she was pregnant.
She found out she was pregnant at the weigh-in, before the fight. She took a pregnancy test, and, apparently she's with child.
Talk about modern-day problems.
As a result of that, Kourouni had to face a last-minute replacement opponent that, according to Kalia, was ranked 20th in the world. I don't know who they're ranked with, WBC, the WBA, the WBO, or the IBF.
Ranked 20th with who?
Really don't know. The answer to that question is unclear here and now. Just as well, according to Kourouni, this opponent actually outweighed Kourouni.
And I can believe it.
I can believe it because it was a last-minute replacement. It was a last-minute replacement opponent, someone who likely hadn't been preparing for a fight, likely someone that the powers that be scrambled to find, whoever's around and whoever's available and whoever's willing. I can believe that Kourouni was, in fact, outweighed by her opponent.
Yeah, I think she's telling the truth.
That being said, Kourouni managed to once again secure the W. She managed to secure the victory. She won a points decision. I will say that this fight
doesn't show up on her record.
By my count, this is the second fight that Kourouni has had south of the border that doesn't actually show up on her professional CV, her professional record. If you go by her professional record, she hasn't had a fight since 2019, but since then, she's been in action at least 2 times south of the border in Mexico.
Some passing thoughts.
In spite of the victories, not actually showing up on Kourouni's resume, I think that she still is on the right track. A part of me feels that she is still doing the right thing because she needs the rounds. She needs the experience. She's not an Olympian. She doesn't come from a very extensive amateur background. She is essentially learning on the job. And even if this isn't the kind of victory that you shout from the rooftops about and call your mother, it's still
a step in the right direction.
It's very dicey. It is very chancy, but these are experiences that she needs to have one way or another, because the level of competition anywhere at around 130, 135 to 140, there are a lot of sharks in those weight classes. There are a lot of sharks in the water, and it behooves Kourouni to prepare herself for those sharks in whatever way she can.
I don't know that she's ever going to be a world champion.
I can't tell you that. I don't have the answer. I don't know that she's ever going to be able to call herself a full-fledged world champion in the sport of boxing, but I'm not going to fault her for trying either. I'm not going to fault her for aspiring towards that goal, that dream that she may or may not achieve.
So congratulations to her.
Kalia's attention and her focus must now turn to the fight she's set to participate in on March 20th.
Against Gonzalez.
Diana Gonzalez, who sports a professional record of 6 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. Diana Gonzalez, who lost 1 to Kylie Fulmer, lost 1 to Maureen Shea, and lost 1 to Candy Wyatt.
On paper, she's coming off a draw.
On paper, Diana was last in action last year against Annette Pacquiao. Though you have to wonder, with at least 2 of Kourouni's fights not being registered on BoxRec, does the same apply to Diana? Is Diana having fights on the chicken gizzard circuit? Are Diana's fights flying under the radar so far that they don't even register on BoxRec? I don't know.
But she might be.
That being said, congratulations to Kourouni for managing to secure the W last night in a situation that could have easily gone sideways for her.
It could have.
This may not register on her professional record. This may not show up on her BoxRec, but it does seem like Kourouni is taking steps in the right direction. Best wishes to her in March. Now, for continuation to a story we touched on earlier this week, the ongoing situation that unfolded in the comments of Mikaela Mayer's Instagram account, and how things aren't looking encouraging towards that unification match with France's own Mayer-Hamadouche. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There are a lot of rumors floating around, and I've come across a lot of inside intel that I won't mention here out of respect for my sources. That coupled with the fact that it's really only one side of the story, and I don't have the other, so I won't rush to judgment or jump to conclusions. What I will say is, I'm not optimistic that this is going to be the next fight. I'm not. It's conceivable that Mikaela Mayer will fight someone else in her very next fight. And, that could very well be someone like Heather Hardy, somebody who's been in there with Amanda Serrano, somebody who's got some notoriety. I could see that because Heather Hardy said she's not going back to featherweight. She can't make it. She can't make it healthy, and she's moving up in weight. She's staying up in weight. Could very well be fighting at 130 pounds in her very next fight, and I could see Heather being Mikaela Mayer's very next opponent.
Heather.
It's one theory I've been playing with, though the problem with that theory is, Heather's not going to fight on the cheap. I mean, she's not. She's not going to accept peanuts for a world title fight against an active, reigning, unbeaten world champion. That's the only potential snafu that theory comes with. But I'm not optimistic that Mikaela's going to fight Maeva. That I'm fairly confident about. Comes to Terry, all systems are a go for Terry's upcoming unification match with Hyun-Mi Choi. But beyond that fight, the question then becomes, okay, if Terry beats Hyun-Mi Choi, becomes unified champion at 130 pounds, what's she do after that? I could see Terry fighting Ellen Mekhaled.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't think that Terry would go straight into another unification match if she unifies the WBA and WBC titles. Maybe she takes her foot off the gas a bit, fights unbeaten up-and-comer Ellen Mekhaled, also of France, like Maeva. And I'm okay with that because why should Terry do all the goddamn legwork?
She's got to do every fucking thing.
You have to remember, this is a scenario where Terry Harper would have already unified the WBC and WBA titles, so she's supposed to unify the whole goddamn division by herself?
The girl a break.
I could see that happening, and where that leaves Maeva, I really don't know.
If the Mayer fight doesn't happen.
Maybe they make former WBO champion Eva Brutnicka an offer to fight Maeva, or maybe they offer Katarina Thanders the fight.
Australia's Lauren Eagle.
America's Ayana Vasquez.
France's Victoire Peter.
There are other girls out there they can offer the Mayer-Hamadouche fight too.
There are a few.
Maybe they conjure up one of them. They might have to, because I'm not convinced that Mayer versus Hamadouche is going to happen. And in the in-between time, Maeva's going to need to fight somebody. Matchroom didn't sign her for nothing.
I mean, I'd love to be wrong about this.
But if the fight doesn't happen, Maeva's going to have to fight somebody.
Like, if y'all believe me, I swear to God. This shit, y'all, I swear, and look. I watched Canelo sell off some shit with Jacobs. This is not it. That wasn't a sell-off show either, but this shit, Earl did better than this. Look, that shit that y'all see that's blue, that's empty, dog. Ain't the fight about to start? I'm getting the fuck out of here. It's 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock in fucking Florida, dog. There's no way I should still be watching as a water. Where you going? Hold up, dog. You trying to leave me?
That is said to be Jermel Charlo of the Charlo brothers. They're twins, identical twins. Very hard to tell which is which, especially when they're ranting and raving the way that Jermel was in this video.
Yeah.
Apparently, Jermel is not impressed with how many people showed up to last night's fight between Canelo Alvarez and Avni Yildirim. And, to that, the most I can say, well, how many people showed up to your fight, Jermel?
Yeah. How many tickets did you sell, bro?
I mean, before we go worrying about how many people did or didn't show up to Canelo Alvarez's fight, I'm curious as to how many tickets did Jermel Charlo sell in his last outing? How many people showed up to his last fight?
None. It wasn't open to the public.
Oh, they had it inside of a bubble. That's fine. Why'd they have it inside of a bubble again?
Coronavirus!
One more time?
Coronavirus!
I see. So because of coronavirus, you weren't able to fight in front of a live audience. And I have no doubts that same coronavirus, that same pandemic that we're still in, likely affected how many people showed up to this thing.
There were likely social distancing protocols in play.
I don't imagine that people were elbow to elbow in last night's Canelo Alvarez versus Avni Yildirim fight. I imagine that this venue was repurposed and adjusted, retrofitted to deal with the ongoing pandemic and what social distancing protocols are in play.
Yeah, that's conceivable.
But before you even decide to turn your nose up at how many people did or didn't show up to Canelo Alvarez's fight, well, nobody showed up to yours.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, no, COVID. COVID-19. Better still, nobody showed up to your fight. I mean, if we look at Canelo Alvarez's last fight and we look at yours, one of these two guys actually sold tickets to their last fight. Can you tell me which?
Well, it wasn't you.
Never mind what Jermall or Jermel, whichever one of those two fucking guys this is. Never mind what they had to say, because the headline is that they're not impressed with the attendance for Canelo Alvarez's fight, and Errol Spence Jr. was actually able to draw out more people. It sounds a lot like what this member of the Charlo brothers is trying to say, is that Errol is a bigger draw than Canelo.
Is that right?
To that, what I'll say is, okay, if Errol's a bigger draw than Canelo Alvarez, then let Errol, A-side Errol, prepare Canelo Alvarez an offer.
Okay, Milli Vanilli.
I mean, if the point of what you're saying is that Errol Spence Jr. is somehow a bigger draw than Canelo Alvarez, then if he is a bigger draw, the way you say he's a bigger draw, then shouldn't it be Errol financing the offer to Canelo?
It should.
Shouldn't he be the one drawing up the term sheets and sending out the contracts? He's the A-side, right? That's what you're getting at. That's what you're trying to say. So when is A-side Errol going to make Canelo Alvarez an offer?
When hell freezes over.
There's this new narrative going around that somehow Errol Spence Jr. is the face of boxing around here. But if he's the face of boxing around here, then when's he going to send Canelo Alvarez an offer?
I mean, if you're the face of boxing, that's what you're supposed to do.
If the mission statement, if the bottom line of all of this is that somehow, some way, Errol Spence Jr. has surpassed Canelo Alvarez as the biggest draw in boxing in this part of the world, then when is this biggest draw, when is this guy going to actually send out an offer? Because if you're the biggest draw, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
It is.
Not fighting Ugas.
Instead of fighting that guy, why don't you send Canelo an offer?
Because your buddy Shermal, whoever the fuck this is, he's blowing smoke up everybody's asses saying you're the A-side. You're a bigger draw than Canelo Alvarez. So send him an offer already.
Pony up the cash.
Show me the money.
Where is it? Where's the big money, Mr. A-side? With your 225,000 pay-per-view buys. If you're really a bigger draw than Canelo, then showing him the money shouldn't be a problem.
Show me the money.
Make him an offer.
Show me the money.
Send him a contract.
Show me the money.
Been saying this guy's name for over a year, over 2 years, over 3 years. When are you going to show him the money?
What's taking so long?
Because your buddy Shermel, he's not impressed with Canelo.
Maybe you can do something impressive.
Show me the money.
And finally, Ryan Garcia talked about the now defunct Pacquiao fight, and he blames Pacquiao for the fight falling apart. That's on him. Boxing star Ryan Garcia is pointing the finger straight at Manny Pacquiao, saying it's Manny who pulled the plug on their fight after offering it to Garcia earlier this year. Manny came to offer me the fight, Garcia explained on the way to Boa Steakhouse in LA on Wednesday. Obviously, I would love to fight Manny Pacquiao, but that's on him. That's on him. Garcia had announced the fight back in January, posting on Instagram as if it was a done deal. Instead, Garcia is focusing on lining up another opponent. His priority is Gervonta Davis, but he's also open to fighting Vasyl Lomachenko. I think I made it very clear I want Gervonta Davis. That's the man I want, and I'll knock him out in 2 rounds. Garcia and Tank have been trading insults on social media for years now, while both obliterating opponents in the ring. Seems like the obvious fight to make. As for Loma, Garcia says he would love that fight as well, but it's clear Davis is the target now.
What do you guys think about that?
Ryan, in so many words, is saying that Manny Pacquiao is the one that pulled the plug on the fight. He's blaming him for the fight having not happened. In truth, regardless of who pulled the plug on this fight, I think Ryan Garcia dodged the bullet.
I think he's gonna get his fucking ass kicked.
I'll tell you what I think. I think if there was a proposition from anyone to make this fight, it likely wasn't going to be at 135 pounds. I don't think that's a healthy weight for a 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao to make at this point in the juncture. I think that in all likelihood, the fight would have likely been at either 140 or even 147 pounds. I think that it would have had to have been Ryan that moves up in weight for the match. Manny Pacquiao being the A-side, he's going to have things on his terms. And if he wants Ryan to move up for the fight, that's what Ryan would have had to do.
Is that what stopped it from happening?
I don't think so. I don't think that's what the hang-up was here. I think that there was some kind of internal issue going on the Manny Pacquiao side of things, and I think that Ryan is telling the truth. I think it was the Pacquiao side of things that pulled the plug on this, because there has been some strange turn of events over there on the Manny Pacquiao side of the street. It's easy to castigate Ryan because you don't like him. It's easy to accuse him of lying and making all of this up. But if that were true, why is Sean Gibbons, or why was Sean?
The guy he hired in July of 2019.
Why was Sean Gibbons egging Ryan Garcia's contention on? Uploading images of a potential Ryan Garcia versus Manny Pacquiao fight to his Instagram account. I've talked about it several times here on the channel to no avail. there are still a lot of people that are quite comfortable thinking that Ryan Garcia is lying and that he made all of this up when nothing could be further from the truth. The image you see here was uploaded by none other than Sean Gibbons himself, the guy Manny hired in 2019.
If Ryan's lying, why'd Sean upload that to his Instagram account?
Listen, I don't give a fuck whether you like Ryan Garcia or not. I don't care if you're sweet on the kid, you're not sweet on the kid, but you have to reconcile why Sean Gibbons uploaded an image like this to his Instagram account. What's going on here?
What, I'm supposed to ignore this because you don't like Ryan?
Am I supposed to look at this entire situation with blinders on because a couple of you people out there are real sentimental about Manny Pacquiao? Well, I'm not going to do that.
Why the fuck would I?
Maintain my original position. I think Ryan Garcia really did dodge a bullet with this fight having fizzled out. I think it's a fight that he would have undoubtedly lost at either 140 or 147 pounds, but make no mistake, I think the Pacquiao people, at least one of them, they did in fact reach out to Ryan, and perhaps someone else on Manny's side of things pulled the plug on this. Because people at Paradigm Management, who Manny Pacquiao also hired, they issued out a very stern warning for anyone attempting to represent Mr. Manny Pacquiao in what remains of his professional boxing career. They made it clear that legal action will ensue for anyone acting on Mr. Manny Pacquiao's behalf. And I happen to think they were talking about Sean.
That's who I think that warning was for.
That's what I think that very cryptic warning about potential legal action, that's what I think that was all about. I think that somebody was attempting to negotiate a fight on Mr. Manny Pacquiao's behalf, and the people over there at Paradigm, they weren't on board with that. There were several names in the hat for Manny Pacquiao at the time, Ryan Garcia among them.
I don't think that Ryan is lying. I think he's telling the truth.
The same way I would never think that Manny Pacquiao, of all people, had anything to worry about in Ryan Garcia. If the fight fizzled out, if things didn't happen between Manny and Ryan, I think it has a lot to do with an internal issue and a conflict of interest between Sean Gibbons and the people at Paradigm Management, Audi Attar.
I think that's what defunked the fight.
Moving forward, I don't expect Ryan Garcia to fight Gervonta Davis next in his very next fight, as Gervonta Davis quite cryptically made it known that he may be facing a world champion
Very soon.
outside of the super featherweight division and the lightweight division. We might see Gervonta Davis make an appearance at 140 pounds. In all likelihood, it could be for a WBA regular title that Mario Barrios holds. As we all know, the PBC is in the business of collecting those WBA Reggie belts.
Ryan Garcia ain't next, man.
Just back to the point. If this Pacquiao versus Garcia fight didn't happen, I don't think Ryan was lying. I think he's telling the truth.
Manny's side killed the fight.